Jazzmasters and Jaguars, two of the coolest, most iconic guitars ever made. And a lot of folks kind of lump them into the same aesthetic category. But what are the differences? That's what we're here to talk about today. So in 1958, Fender releases the Jazzmaster, given the name targeting the jazz demographic. It didn't quite take off in that category, in that genre, but the surf rockers really took to it and made it their own. Just 4 years later, in 1962, Fender takes some feedback from players who had played the Jazzmaster and they design and release the Jaguar, creating a seemingly similar aesthetic instrument, but has some key tonal differences. I thought it'd be interesting to get into those. I've wondered through the years what these differences are between the Jazzmaster and the Jaguar. They're both so cool, but there are some fairly important tonal differences. Let's talk about them. Now, it's important to note that through the decades, there have been many different pickup configurations, mods, all kinds of stuff with these guitars. But for today's purposes, we'll be focusing on what we'd call the classic models of Jazzmasters and Jaguars. Okay, for Jazzmaster, I have here a new American Professional 2 Series Jazzmaster. Great guitar, I love it. And let's talk about the pickup configuration. Two single coil pickups, and this is important. They are encased in this plastic, which makes them almost look like P90s, but they're not, they're single coils. And the Jazzmaster single coils are wound differently than single coils that you'd find on a Strat or a Tele. So they do automatically produce a different sound altogether. There is a rhythm circuit and a lead circuit. You switch between the two by this switch right up here, okay? You have lead circuit if it's down and rhythm circuit if it's up. Rhythm circuit's gonna get you kind of a darker, maybe in some cases kind of a muddier tone, while the lead circuit's gonna be a little bit brighter and probably will cut through a mix a little better and things like that. When you are on the lead circuit, we have a traditional three-way toggle switch here. So just, you've seen this on tons of guitars, and that is, bridge pickup, both, and neck pickup. And then you've got volume and tone down here, okay? If you're on the rhythm circuit, you have a volume roller here and a tone roller here. And then we have the floating tremolo system, which is quintessential to a Jazzmaster sound and look. And it is to this day one of the most stable and musical trem systems. And when engaged, is one of the greatest colors that you can add to your music, in my opinion. Okay, we're gonna transition into talking about the Jaguar, but first, so you can just see them both on screen here, the first kind of visual noticeable difference is the 25.5-inch scale length on the Jazzmaster versus the 24-inch scale length on the Jaguar. So Jazzmaster, you're gonna have a little bit more tension. It's just gonna be a different feel altogether. Let's move on to the Jag. I have here a CME Special 66 Jaguar. These are awesome. Chicago Music Exchange makes these to original spec, and they are fantastic guitars. Okay, pickup configuration. Again, we have two single coils. These are encased in this metal, which eliminates some of the 60 cycle hum and arguably gets you more of that kind of bright, twangy tone, which would be the first noticeable difference if you plugged in a Jazzmaster and a Jaguar back to back. The Jaguar, just like the Jazzmaster, was definitely owned by the surf rock scene, and it makes sense, and these players really used it, usually drenched it in reverb for a lot of this instrumental guitar excitement. And it was brand new, and it was bright, and it was twangy, and it cut through a band. So it makes sense as to why that genre really kind of made this their own, just like the Jazzmaster. Okay, pickup controls. So just like the Jazzmaster, we have a lead circuit and rhythm circuit, right? Now, a little bit different here on the lead circuit, we have these three switches here as opposed to the three-way toggle. and they are a lead pickup on-off switch, a rhythm pickup on-off switch, and a mid-tone cut or strangle switch. So it kind of creates this high pass, filter. You can make the tone of a Jaguar even brighter, even that extra bright push with this switch. So it's really cool, it's very unique. Again, we have volume and tone, and then we have, same with the rhythm circuit, where we have volume and tone rollers up here. Again, just like the Jazzmaster, the great floating trem system, super iconic, very important to, I would say, the visual as well as the tonal quality of the Jaguar. And then a super cool feature on a Jaguar is the mute, which is going to be almost like a palm mute situation. It's gonna give you less sustain, but just a really cool dynamic in the tone. And again, to reiterate, these models have been changed so much, through the decades, but these original Jaguars definitely will have this mute, and super cool to explore. Jazzmasters and Jaguars, two of the coolest guitars ever made, and although they were ubiquitous with that 60s surf rock scene, since then in recent decades they have been championed by all kinds of musicians, alt rockers, indie rockers, shoegazers, all kinds of really cool stuff. You might be asking yourself, do I want a Jazzmaster or a Jaguar? Do I need both? No, but some of the considerations to make are some of the things we talked about here. Are you into a shorter scale length? Is that going to be something you're into? Do you want more of a kind of a thumpier bite with a Jazzmaster, or do you want that kind of high-end twang with a Jaguar? Do you want to, cover up more sonic space and more frequency range with this wider sounding Jazzmaster, or do you want to cut through a mix and be more precise with clean tones with a Jaguar? It's totally up to you. Of course, they are awesome, awesome instruments to explore, and you can find all different kinds, vintage, new, spec'd out on Reverb. So I encourage you to check them out. I have begun my Jaguar search through exploring and researching for this video. So we'll see where that takes me. Till then, I'll keep playing my Jazzmaster. Thanks for watching, everybody.